Hello! Welcome to the first video of The Calm, where we talk about different works of fiction. And today, as you can see from the thumbnail, we're talking about a character from the Arrowverse. A very special character. That's right, today we're talking about Sara Lance, highly trained League of Assassins member, vigilante turned superhero, strong-willed, self-made woman, and paragon of destiny. And we're going to explain why she's none of those. For many years, we've been fans of the Arrowverse, starting with Arrow itself. Oliver is our favorite character, and the appeal of him is that we see his journey. We follow his growth, and the fact that we see him develop and learn his skills is what makes him so endearing. Oliver earned everything, and that's what made him worthy to become the immortal Spectre. Now, the most important factor of all that is that we see it happen. It was on screen. Now, with that in mind, did we see when Sara became an assassin? Did we see her learn to fight? Most importantly, did we see when she developed her inner darkness? In today's video, we will be discussing Sara's role on LOT, her history, and who she is as a person. This will be part 1 of 3 in our series of videos analyzing Sara Lance. Now, if you're a Sara fan, we should warn you that this 3-part analysis will cover Sara's role thus far in the Arrowverse, and will not be very kind to the character. So you will most likely not like this video very much, and should probably not watch it, unless you're willing to hear some constructive criticism and facts about Sara. Also, a heads up, we are not fans of LOT, so we will be referring to the show as Legends, if not LOT. It doesn't make you a legend if you're the cause of all the problems. Now with that, we can begin. Part 1. The main character of an ensemble cast. Why Sara shouldn't be the main character? Did you know that LOT is an ensemble cast? Apparently the showrunners didn't either. LOT is stated to have an ensemble cast. With that in mind, we have to ask just why does this show so obviously have a main character? Anyone watching LOT could easily understand that Sara Lance is the centralized main character. I mean, she's got this grudge against Damien Darhk that gets recycled almost every season. She's even made to be the wielder of the oh-so-special Death Totem, and was the one that turned off the Spear of Destiny. Sara also got a power handed to her by looking at a fate's true form that usually kills the person that sees it. They even named her captain of a self-piloting ship, for crying out loud. This character is so blatantly put on the pedestal that she's made the biggest character on most season box covers. The ironic part of all of this is that Katie Lotz herself, Sara's actress, stated in an interview back in 2016 that she loves the show for having an ensemble cast. What makes this even wilder is the fact that she also revealed she herself asked to be on the show. The showrunners already planned to make LOT when she was killed off in Arrow. Knowing she wasn't even meant to be on LOT, it's quite baffling to think she became the main character. But hey, even Captain Jack Sparrow wasn't originally intended to be the primary focus in the Pirates of the Caribbean. But the big difference, Jack had an air of mystery and intrigue while having an entertaining personality. He made watching his adventures fun with his uncanny way of finding a way out of any situation. Sara, on the other hand, just isn't endearing. She doesn't even have a reason to be on the Wave Rider in particular. Her goal is only about finding her purpose and wanting her alleged past to have been worth something. She wants to step away from killing, and she's recruited onto a team specifically to kill someone. She's constantly bringing up having been in the League of Assassins, according to her, and always threatens the other team members. For someone that seemingly regrets the past forced onto her, she seems to take great pride in it. She talks about the League of Assassins far more than Kendra says she's a barista, yet it's Kendra that gets the bad rep. There's not even any tension whenever Sara gets into a situation either. This show uses her claim on being an assassin as justification to having her pull any weapon out of seemingly nowhere, or also effortlessly beat any opponent. They have actual League members be easily beat for the sake of the plot, while Little Miss What Are You Doing Here becomes an unstoppable monster. Even if Sara gets injured or dies, the ship can just revive her, despite the fact that it lets less injured characters die. It's stuff like that as to why we can't get behind her being the main character. We didn't even know what her initial goal was in season 1 until we read that interview that was mentioned earlier. Her personality paints her as a narcissist that is super proud of her past, and the story requires her to kill. She's pretty much unbeatable thanks to her plot armor. So there's not even any tension to counteract how uninteresting she is. Let's compare that to Rip Hunter. LOT starts with showing the world ravaged by Vandal Savage. He goes up to a woman and her child and kills them. We see Rip, a Time Master, pleading to the other Time Masters to stop Savage. Since the organization is meant to preserve the timeline, they turn him down. Rip then goes rogue and decides to pick up a select group of people to kill Savage and prevent his global conquest. He later reveals the woman and child from earlier were his wife and son. This is a fantastic hook. Not only does he have a personal connection to the tragedy, but his goal is actually endearing, since success will save billions of lives. This also shows his resolve by having him disobey the system he's dedicated his life to for the sake of doing what's right. The best part of it is that Rip can't be the solution to the problem. The guy can't bring himself to kill Savage before he gains immortality, because he didn't do anything particularly bad yet. Rip can only do this with the aid from Kendra and Carter, and they can only succeed if they have a team to create an opening to stop Savage. It's kind of a perfect setup for an ensemble cast, and why the other seasons just don't work, especially with Sara. Sara's drive after season 1 is wanting to kill Damien for killing Laurel. The tension comes not from thinking Sara would lose because she's a Mary Sue, but because killing Damien would have serious repercussions on the timeline. Her decisions are what causes a lot of the problems in the show, and it's hard to root for a character that only ever causes problems. Why Sara's story doesn't work. The biggest problem with Sara is that she feels the need to find a purpose behind enduring her dark past. While on paper that's a fantastic goal, this just leaves us with the big question. What has Sara actually been through? The Amazo? Lian Yu? The League of Assassins? Death itself? Not being able to save Laurel? Sure, all terrible events. To anyone other than her. Sara's journey begins on the Queen's Gambit, where the boat goes down. She survives because a single door came floating by and she happened to pass out on it. Not long after, the Amazo comes by and picks her up. Not only does plot convenience save her, but she's rescued almost immediately. On the life raft, the other survivors of the shipwreck were dying and dehydrated due to being lost at sea for days. But Sara gets a free pass. On the Amazo, Sara gets thrown into a brig. A scary situation, sure, where she then gets dragged off to what we can only assume is to be raped by the crew, when Anthony Ivo swoops in and takes her into his protection before anything actually happens to her. He also takes her under his wing and makes her his apprentice. Absolutely everyone else captured by Ivo immediately gets shot and has to dig out their own bullet and get experimented on by Ivo himself. Not Sara, of course. She just gets some fresh clothes and makeup that Ivo had with him for some reason. He even teaches her some medical stuff and lets her stay in his quarters. Nothing happens between the two of them. Ivo's on the ship for the sake of his wife. He helps Sara because the show decided to have him be nice to her, despite Ivo being so rotten that murder itself is looked at by Sara as the doctor just being tired. He's not a kind or charitable person. He literally tortures and experiments on anybody he can get his hands on. Sara witnesses a lot of these experiments and develops a better-them-than-me mindset. By the time that Oliver winds up on the Amazo, Sara's already got this cold demeanor that closely mirrors how she behaves in present-day Season 2 of Arrow. Not only was the Amazo where 90% of her apparent development occurred, but the actual change was off-screen, just like everything she's learned on the boat. What's worse is that LOT likes to imagine that Sara wasn't ever on the Amazo. It treats Sara as if the League of Assassins was the only thing that she's ever been through, with the very rare mention of Lian Yu. Speaking of Lian Yu, the biggest mistake of Sara's backstory, besides off-screening every relevant part of her character arc, was shoehorning her in Oliver's storyline. The big reveal that Sara's alive feels a lot less of a big deal, knowing she was on the island too. It almost seems silly that Oliver would assume that Sara slip and slide off the Amazo would kill her, when they're still very close to land. This part of her story just makes her unlikable too, since she betrays Oliver many times and is the cause of Shadow's death and Slade's madness. Ivo admits Sara was in zero danger when he forced Oliver to choose who dies. He didn't even pick Sara. He chose to throw himself in front of the gun as it was pointed at Sara. Now, because she believes Oliver saved her even when she wasn't in danger and she tells him to not tell Slade about what really happened, this leads to Slade overhearing Ivo's version of the events and going nuts. Not only is Sara a traitor, but she's also the cause of the rift between Oliver and Slade. Her actions may be unintentional, but it makes it really hard to have any investment or care for her well-being, since we know Sara's not important to the timeline, while the Green Arrow and Deathstroke certainly are. It just points more to the fact that she didn't need to be involved. The story just feels lazy, having her shoved into someone else's backstory, rather than having her do something original, or develop on screen. Sara also apparently has no survival instincts, since she's starving to death when Nyssa finds her off-screen. Starving is a bad thing, obviously, but lo and behold, she's rescued once again. This leads to the League of Assassins, the point in Sara's life that takes up over half her dialogue in the Arrowverse. The biggest event in her life, and it's completely off-screen? Seriously, this is where her development was meant to happen. Both her flashback episodes occurred in episodes dedicated to the League, and all we see is her getting on the boats. Katie Cassidy, Laurel's actress, said in an interview once that we, the audience, have to see the character earn their skills. It can't just come to them. That's exactly what they did with Sara. Laurel could fight when she's introduced an arrow, but only basic self-defense. If a criminal has a knife or two, Laurel can still easily lose, especially in an emotional state. She had to train with a retired vigilante and Nyssa before she could officially become the Black Canary. Despite Cisco's lies, Sara was never the Black Canary, and she wasn't even just Canary. That's not what the League name translates to, which is a given with this bombshell I'm about to drop. Sara wasn't even a member of the League. Ra's al Ghul himself said she was never truly a member and refers to her as Sara when he's not in Oliver's presence. The League rules declare you cannot live by more than one name, and you discard your old name to take up a new one. Nyssa herself mostly refers to Sara by her regular name, and she is so big on the League rules that she still called Oliver her husband long after she disbanded the League. Not only that, but Nyssa describes Sara's time at Nanda Parbat by declaring she protected her. Not any word on training or anything, and we see how little Ra's cares about unskilled members or Nyssa's feelings. I'll acknowledge that Sara does indeed have scars over her body, indicating she has indeed been cut, seemingly a lot. But when she suddenly shows up with a device that emits a loud, piercing sound and a stick, I'm not gonna immediately buy that she's an assassin. Obviously, LOT wants to believe the League was canon to her story, despite all the reasonable doubt. Heck, some characters identify her as an assassin at first glance, despite her flashy white outfit, big stick, and frontal assault. LOT likes to use the League to justify Sara being able to do literally anything and to pull any weapon out of thin air and use it with total mastery, while any other assassin gets punched by Jax who is a young man that was in line for a scholarship and is a mechanic. So what about him equals that he has any combat abilities? The episode Left Behind doesn't really count either, despite how much it tries to force Roz to praise her skills. Once again, her actual training is off-screen, except the one sparring match that, if you pay attention, you'll notice she was losing until the end. Kendra can also hold her own pretty well despite not training for 2 years, as well as losing her memories, and even outmatching Sara in a later episode. The League of Assassins seemingly weakens Sara, despite it being the only time we see her as an assassin, other than that illusion of her slitting that guy's throat by throwing a knife at his chest. The line from Roz stating she was never truly a member is still canon, so he still didn't consider her a member even back in 1960. He wouldn't have kept it a secret because he couldn't care less about Sara. Heck, why he picked her to participate in the fight to the death when Rip came to pick her up. Even if Sara had learned anything new in those 2 years, it wouldn't have counted anyway, thanks to time drift. You lose yourself when you stay in a different time too long, and getting on the Wave Rider makes you gradually return to normal. The only time she can really claim she was in the League cannot even count because of this. And again, it was off-screen. People complain about Laurel being able to fight League members. And, first of all, so can Jax. Second of all, Laurel was trained on screen by Nyssa before she fought them. And third of all, Roz wanted them captured alive so Oliver can watch him unleash the Omega virus on them. Not only is there visual proof to justify it, but context clues to justify Laurel's skills. Unlike Sara, where her word is what we have to go by, with the context contradicting her. All of this could have been avoided if they had just handled her backstory better, instead of dropping her into Oliver's backstory and ruining everything. They should have just had her in the League. Imagine, if in Season 3, after her death, if we get a series of flashback episodes showing her struggle and growth in the League. Have us actually see what she's been through, and how she's changed. That would have made her much more endearing, and would fit with every other character in the show. We also would get to see how intense the League training really is, and all Oliver would eventually have to go through, and more to become Ra's al Ghul's successor. Also, we would have gotten more Nyssa, and that's always a good thing. Why Sara is a terrible person. Now that it's well established that her backstory isn't that much, let's look at Sara's personality. Starting off, she's a rebellious person, both before and after everything. She agrees to go on the Queen's Gambit after a minor argument with Laurel. She claims men had always tried to get her drunk to sleep with her, but she could drink them under the table. An odd accomplishment in a family of alcoholics. Alcoholism is a very serious topic in the Lance family. But with Sara, it's just a setup for the plot telling us how amazing she is. The topic of men wanting to sleep with her indicates the show believing Sara can get anybody she wants. Something LOT will heavily focus on. So the question is, why Oliver? I mean, it's obvious. Look at him. But at the same time, why choose to ruin his and Laurel's relationship? Oliver wants to cheat on Laurel because he has serious commitment issues, and he was depressed about the alleged death of his son. Sara, on the other hand, wished to hurt Laurel because of an argument. For some reason, their mom, Dinah, is all for Sara going with Oliver on the boat. On the NU, she claims she had a crush on Oliver, and Laurel sabotaged her chances with him at a party. But Oliver doesn't really buy it. He didn't even know she was there, and he even spilled beer on her. He can remember a line from a book he read in college, but didn't even notice his childhood friend's younger sister. This shows how little of an impact Sara had. She actually blames Laurel for not getting to date Oliver. This is a constant with her character, where she either blames someone else for her shortcomings or shares the blame with others when she makes a mistake. She becomes more of a cold-hearted sociopath when she's watching Ivo's experiments. Apparently, she didn't watch close enough since she didn't even know that Ivo gave the priest, Peter, cancer. She was willing to make someone a bomb for the sake of killing Slade. That certain someone was mean to Sara, so I guess that makes it okay, according to her. In season 2, she's extremely obsessed with wanting to kill Roy, whenever he gets a little upset. He has Mirakuru in him, so you could say it's because of Slade's behavior. But even he could be reasoned with, as long as you don't keep something a secret, leading him to hear a psychopath's version of said events. Sara likes killing people, and really wants an excuse to do so. Strange, though, how her disdain towards killing is what made her want to leave Nanda Parbat, yet she has no issue later. She never even killed any criminals in Starling City until Oliver returned in season 2. Sara only ever beat up criminals that attacked women, mostly. Once Oliver's back, she chucks her stick through the dollmaker's chest cavity. After her big reveal, she tags along with the Arrow on some missions, where he's gotta make sure she doesn't kill anyone. There's also this weird double standard thing they do, where whenever Sara doesn't kill anybody, the show treats it like a big congratulatory moment for her. Yet when she kills League members, it's still treated as a victory for her. That's the problem with Sara in Arrow Season 2. Her morality's really all over the place. She wants to kill one moment, and the next she's fed up with it. She says she's irredeemable, then gets a pep talk that leads to her grabbing a kid from a burning building. Feels good about the praise, then still goes with Nyssa back to Nanda Parbat. Sara's morality isn't in flux because she's struggling with her shadow. It's in flux so she'll have something to do between episodes. It's literally based on who the big bad of the episode is. Fighting the big bad of the episode isn't exactly heroic either way. She only attacks criminals that are after women. It's not for the sake of cleaning up the cities, since she doesn't arrest them. She only aids Roy because he too had just saved a woman. Other than that, men can just fend for themselves in the glades. Heroes shouldn't discriminate. Taking care of Sin isn't heroic either because that's just a favor to her father, who very super conveniently was a resident of Starling City that also landed on Lian Yu. It's not like Sara even cares about that favor until she decided to return after Merlin wrecked the glades. Sin is less than nothing to Sara anyway, since she has no gripes with abandoning her and never paying her a thought after season 2 of Arrow. I mean, sure, she died and had no memories after her resurrection, but LOT ignores the amnesia thing. Sin had nothing to do with Sara and LOT, nor, for that matter, does a majority of the stuff from Arrow regarding her behavior. In fact, that interview we keep referring to also revealed LOT Sara is supposed to be different from Arrow Sara. This one's more carefree and laid back. Funny, since Bloodlust is her only long-running plotline in season 1. I guess an uncontrollable want to slaughter friend and foe alike is what the showrunners think being carefree and laid back means. With all the back and forth there was with Sara and Arrow, we can absolutely guarantee one thing. Sara's a much worse person in LOT. She's a disobedient, arrogant psychopath with biased double standards. If you've been paying attention, that may sound like she actually hasn't changed. But oh boy, has the lighthearted Sara become awful. She constantly talks about the League, either with a prideful tone in her voice, or as a means of threatening one of the team members. She seems to have a specific grudge against Stein, probably because he actually calls her out on her mistakes. He just called her a nurse in one of the episodes, and she goes on to threaten his life by killing him slowly. She also really wants to snipe him when Rip's plan changes to rescuing him from the Soviets. No wonder she could so easily box her emotions when he died. Sara clearly doesn't really care that he died. Her anger only present because Ava called to apologize. She even chucks a throwing star at the pie he was gonna eat and steals it from him for no reason other than it's Stein's pie. Why he named her captain is beyond me. Then there's Ray. Ray had his hopes and dreams crushed by Rip telling them they don't matter to the timeline. Sure, Sara gave a pep talk to cheer him up, but that was with selfish intent. She was saying that stuff mainly for her own sake. We know this because her want to be better was her excuse for wanting Mick to redeem himself. And besides, Sara just uses Ray's insecurities to hurt him later on in season 2. He loses his suit, and Sara vividly tells him how useless he is without it. Not mattering is Ray's greatest fear. It is beyond cruel that she is saying this stuff when circumstances force Ray to destroy his suit. Nate isn't too different. In the zombie episode, Sara and Nate get caught by the army, and Sara wishes to convince them that Confederate zombies are real. She offers up Nate and says they're allowed to kill him if she doesn't return. She's ridiculously arrogant, and it's terrible that her unwarranted arrogance should always put other people's lives in jeopardy. Not only is she arrogant, she's a defeatist as well. The instant Kronos takes the Wave Rider, Sara just assumes everyone is dead, when she doesn't even know Kronos was involved. It should also be noted that Little Miss Irredeemable decided she only belonged in Nana Parbat and left behind, despite Nurse Lindsay being right there, ready to help out Sara. But no, Sara needed to go to Nana Parbat to get her bloodlust off-screened. But even with her bloodlust cured, she's still a violent psychopath. After she broke time and got a job at Sink's shower and stuff, she got in trouble with the manager Val. She was throwing knives at the products in this well-populated store. Val's words indicate he's told her not to do this before. Sara then imagines herself killing him just because he keeps warning her to not throw knives in the store. I don't get this scene. Is it supposed to be funny, or are we supposed to feel for Sara? The murder of an innocent person isn't funny. It's sick. And Val seems like a saint for giving Sara so many warnings, even when she's ruining the products in the store. There's nothing here to indicate that we should hate Val other than Sara says so. This murderous behavior extends even further. In Necromancing the Stone, not the Charmed episode that aired many years prior to LOT's episode, she gets tempted to wear the death totem. It sends her nightmares of her alleged past, and she becomes an edgy phantom when she activates it. Amaya explains the totem brings out the true nature of the bearer. Everyone tries their utmost to excuse Sara as being possessed by malice. While she is indeed possessed by him in this episode, she also admits in the next episode that he didn't affect her feelings. Sara literally admitted that she wants to kill all of the team members. They basically bow down to her, and she wants to kill them. This plotline is dropped because Ava's clone, but it doesn't make it okay just because the problem's ignored. When Oliver says he likes killing people, that was because he was actually haunted by his past, that we see, and Prometheus tortured him until he admitted it. He was then super down on himself because he was convinced it was true. Sara, on the other hand, is all fine and dandy. Heck, her dad dies soon after this, but Sara's as happy as ever in season 4. She's got the Wave Rider, her girlfriend she doesn't respect, and her family's dead. Really, as long as everything falls into her lap, she's completely fine. It almost seems like she doesn't actually care about her family. I know, her vengeance kick for Laurel looks like it counteracts this statement, but she was closer with Quentin than Laurel in Arrow Season 2, if Arrow Season 2 is our basis. This makes it obvious that her grudge with Damien isn't about Laurel. Sure, it is about Laurel, but not exactly for why the show says it is. Roop told Sara no. Sara's biggest issue with Damien is that she's not allowed to kill him. She always jeopardizes the mission in Season 2 to go after past Damien, but she stopped from killing him to preserve the timeline. In Season 3, she admits to always imagining herself killing him. So the hate's still there. Yet she doesn't kill him. In fact, she specifically doesn't kill him, not to move past her hatred, as Season 5 can attest, but so he can live to see his daughter die. Which, in a way, isn't that her still getting her vengeance on him? It's not like Sara doesn't benefit from killing Damien, since he's a resurrected anachronism. No, she doesn't kill him because his death doesn't give her what she wants. It's not the same as moving past her vengeance. It's the opposite, actually. Her vengeance only matters if it can undo what he did. To anybody paying attention, this would create a paradox, much like the Constantine vasectomy. No, this is entirely because Sara wasn't allowed to do something. Woo! One down. Next part, we will be focusing on how the fans interpret Sara's personality compared to her actions in the show. We'll be using screenshots of her wiki page as of several months ago. If you'd like to be notified when part 2 drops, why don't you subscribe? You could also like or dislike this video if you want. It's your choice, much like how you could choose to support us on Patreon. Until next time, see ya and have a wonderful day.